3. Hi, my name is Ms. Arlene. I'm the art teacher here in the Sequoia classroom. I've been working with your child through the art studios. I'm going to show you some of their work today. We're going to move on to the ribbon art. The children were surprised to learn that ribbon could be used as art. They selected ribbons and twirled it around cardstock. Then we used Scotch tape to secure the ribbons for moving around. In this activity, the children got to work on their skills of estimation as they picked out strips for their project. Children, was it tricky picking out the ribbons? The next project that we have is our cup sun catcher. This work was very interesting because it involved colors, plastic cups, and heat. The children carefully decorated a plastic cup, and using the oven's heat, they can melt the cup, forming a wonderful flat surface that creates a new masterpiece. The children were so surprised to see that art can be created with these cups. Children, were you surprised when your work turned out flat? What did you think was going to happen? Our next project is the optical art weaving. This work was interesting as some children had experience with weaving and some did not. The children were completely independent with their weaving work, moving one strip of paper over and under another strip. They were thrilled to see patterns and designs emerge. This work helps with the hand-eye coordination and attention to detail. Children, how many strips of paper did you end up using for your weaving art? Next, we have the introduction to primary colors. When introducing art, it's a world of possibilities where their imagination can soar. We hope to start with the foundation of colors and what constitutes primary color. With this lesson, the children had great fun learning what is the primary color. Children, can you tell your family what are the 3 primary colors? So next we have our next board. On our next board we have the glue batik. Batik is a technique of dyeing cloth where gel glue is used to resist the ability of a fabric to catch dye. The children drew patterns using the glue, exercising their fine motor skills as they squeezed the bottles. After the glue dried, the children painted the open spaces using acrylic paint. Children, how did it feel to paint on cloth? Our next project was the tie-dye art with baby wipes. The children were introduced to the concept of tie-dye, which basically is an art of color spreading naturally to another space. The children pinched the center of a baby wipe and twisted it, attaching a few rubber bands, keeping it in place, as they used the markers to color sections of baby wipe. Once done, they removed the rubber bands and unfolded gently to allow the wipe to air dry. The children had fun exploring a wet surface and watching the colors change and move before them. Children, did you notice any of the colors blending together? How did you think that happened? Our next poster board includes making lighter shades of paint. This work was a lot of fun to make because we made it together. Each friend participated in painting a popsicle stick, and when placed together, it shows hues of color. The children were so proud to work together, making one big masterpiece everyone can enjoy. Children, do you remember which shade you chose to paint? Can you spot where it is in the collaborative piece? Our next work was a family portrait using wax. The children were asked to envision their family, who's in it, and what do they like. The children were encouraged to work on their language skills when talking about their family. The children also exercised their fine motor skills as they modeled and manipulated the wax with their fingers. Children, who is in your family portrait? Our next poster board is our sunset painting. This was a popular work for the children. We talked about shadows and light and how it can be incorporated into our artwork. The children had some interesting ideas, but not any more fascinating than they come alive from their perspectives. The children used waterworks to make a sunset. You may notice not everyone sees sunsets the same way. Some have more light, some have more orange. It's all beautiful. Once dried, the children placed their bird on the sunset to present it flying in the sky. Children, have you seen a bird fly through a sunset before? Our next board is glue drawing with oil pastels. This multi-day lesson was lots of fun. The children combined two types of art mediums, glue and oil pastel, to make this masterpiece. The children explored different textures using oil pastels to color within the lines created previously with wet glue that turned into wonderful hard outline. It was great seeing their unique art emerge. Not one is the same as the other. Children, can you share with your family what was your favorite part about this work? Our next art is the Matisse cutout art. This lesson was inspired by the great artist Henri Matisse. The children painted blank paper, whatever color they chose. Then, when it dried, they snipped irregular shapes. The idea of irregular shapes made some children uncomfortable, but the goal was to encourage children to step out of their comfort zone and try something new. Once the shapes are set, they would mount them on a blank sheet and create their designs. Children, how did it feel to cut irregular shapes? On our next board, we have pattern making with dried Q-tips. Patterning is a lot of fun. The attention to detail is a skill that is developed over time and practice. The children explored what does patterning mean and what makes a pattern. It is interesting to see the children arrange and sort designs. The freedom of creativity allowed the children to design unique patterns. Children, please share with your family, what does patterning mean? Our next project is leaf sun catchers. This multi-day art project was so much fun. The children mixed paint with glue and used it to create outlines in their artwork. Once it was dry, they colored in the open spaces with markers, allowing their imagination to fly. Some children liked using the same colors, while some liked using a different color at each space. As unique as each leaf on a real tree was, as unique as the child made it. Children, where do you plan to hang your leaf? Our next artwork is paper sculptures. The children explored creating sculptures with paper. For many children, this was the first time making something 3D with construction paper. The children created their sculptures by bending, twisting, and overlapping the paper. Art is not only about the result, it is also about the journey. Many children started with an idea and it turned out to be something completely different that they loved even more. Oh, the beauty of curating. Children, what were you imagining when you were making your sculptures? Our next artwork is sewing. The goal of this activity was to let the children enjoy the calm rhythm of sewing, refine their fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and focus. For most children, this was their first attempt at sewing. This activity was set up to be open-ended, allowing imagination to soar and time to figure out the mechanics of sewing. Children, what was the fun part about sewing? Texture painting. The children were provided an assortment of materials with different textures to use, like bubble wrap, sandpaper, etc. The children were invited to pick what items they wanted to use for their project. They painted the different texture items and applied the print on paper. This was an open-ended exercise in which the children could experiment how different materials made different prints. Children, which print was your favorite and why? And our last artwork is packing peanut sculptures. Back to creating sculptures. The children enjoyed making 3D art from our previous activities so much that we introduced another way to create sculptures. For example, by using packing peanuts, the children dampened one end with a wet sponge and used the wet side to adhere to another packing peanut. The children observed this process was like gluing. They were quite creative with what kinds of sculptures made. Children, please describe the sculpture you made.